So obviously I'm going to be doing a watercolour painting, so I'll be sketching the artwork out using a pencil and a rubber if I need it. My paints today, I'm going to use the Jackson's Art paints. They're very nice, them, and these are potentially the brushes that I'll be using for the artwork. It's a scene from I think it's New York. It looks like New York anyway. A street scene. One or two other bits of equipment that are important to help control your water. You've got some paper towel and also some of this, although it's coming to end of its life, this I think. Some magic clean, which is very good. So what I will do is turn the volume down on my computer, because we don't want that on all the time. So that's that gone. So obviously we'll need some water as well. So that's my paints that I'm using, the Jackson's Art paints. Put that to one side and we'll just have a quick look at the paper. So if you can see, it's Hahnemuhle, that's how you pronounce it. There you go. And the sizes in the US it would be £200, but we use grams, so it's 425 grams. And I'm not sure whether this is, I think it's not paper in style, this, but I'm prepared to be corrected on that one. So let's get to the point where we can start doing a drawing. Now, under normal circumstances, this is a block. So under normal circumstances, you put it on a board or something, and you'd tape it down. And it really is important that you tape the paper down. So that's what you've got there, and you tape round the edges, but you don't need to do that with this because it's a block. That's what I'm using today. So just remember that when you do any paintings. So let's open the paper up, and you can see it's really nice. So I'm just going to see if I can check on the chat. In fact, what I'm going to do is pop it all out. Hello everybody, you're all there. I didn't know you were there. Hello. I'm going to pop you out onto a different area so I can see you. So pop out, there you go. And this one here, I'm going to go do like that and make it small. Is it all coming through all nice? Anyway, this, I hope so. Right, so it's a so I can see everybody. Right, so I'm gonna. Hi Dina, hi Josie, hi Gracie. I'm going to try to concentrate on getting the actual artwork done. So if I go a bit, so in the middle, and I'm going to do this really loosely. There's something like a suspension bridge that comes down like that, comes right down I don't know how far that comes down. And then it's cut in two by the suspension of it like that. Quite an interesting perspective thing. Then underneath it, it just looks. Just notice how I'm not being very, you know, detailed about things, because I might change things as the things go along. And then we've got a building that comes up like that. Might not go right to the end, but and that then comes down. So, oh, very nice, thank you. So, and we've got another alternative building at the other side, which seems to be a bit closer. We'll bring that down like that. And it comes up, and then it's overlapped by another building that comes up again, and then that then goes off into perspective, which I'm not going to be. And I'll bring that down there. And I would assume at some point there that then goes like that. And you have this open gap there. Now that goes right down to the point where you no longer see it. And one of the reasons why you don't see it is there's a car there. And I'm not going to draw the car in great detail. And then directly across it there's what seems to be a row of cars. But you don't need to draw them detailed. And again at this side, another car. And some more rows of cars. Now, the only other thing that's of any importance is a path there, and there's I don't know whether that's a this way sign or something like that. Put it in anyway. At this end there seems to be an horizon with trees, so that you can't actually see that. And what you do see in the background is the cityscape. Now, the cityscape you don't see an awful lot of in the picture, but I'm going to exaggerate it and make it very obvious that that's the cityscape in the background. This part of the building here, it has one of those classic New York, I don't know exactly what they call them, those escape ladders like that, which is something I want to fit into it, because it kind of gives you the kind of area that it's in. Got your wires coming down here. The only other thing, I'm sorry, I'm not really looking at the. I'll have to look back later at the chat and everything. But thank you everybody for coming in. So we're nearly. We've got lines of interest here that look like windows. I'm not going to be putting every window in. They can be painted in later if needs be. And again, same thing at this side. The one thing you can see at this side is like a bit of a gap between the road and this wall here. So just to finish off, there's a bit of a shadow coming there. I'm at pains here. I don't know whether to. So I'll suggest that there's a cloud there, but there is a cloudscape there. And that is the drawing that I need roughly mapped out. So it's time to start having a look at the painting. So I hope it's coming over okay. I'm going to move it down a little bit so that, because I'm going to be concentrating on the top area. And just as an interesting point, the light, from what I can see, is coming in from that direction. So this building is going to be dark. Sorry, this building is going to be light, and this building here is going to be fairly dark. So that will help us, give us a sense of three-dimensional perspective. So, and obviously the bridge will help as well in that sense. But I'll just see what I can see with the just for the time being. So I think I'll make a start now then. So let's get let's see if I can move this over a little bit because I'm a bit short for space. Oh dear. Put the drink there. Paper. Right. Unfortunately, due to camera angle and everything, you're not going to see the paints very well, I don't think. So first of all, we're going to start big, and we're going to get the sky in. So right, where shall we go? I'm not going to be calling colours out because I forget some of these colours, to be frank. So I've got a kind of colour in there. It's mostly water, this, so I'm just going to really I'm not going right to the end. And now I'm going to thoroughly clean that out and go like that. Now this is where me bring that down, and it comes right down to where these buildings are. Now you might think that's pretty heavy, because there are some clouds here, but that's where I'm pulling this out like this. I hope you can see this. Right, just a second. I'm going to just gonna go away. I'm just right. So I've oh, just me. Put something in chat, Danina. Oh, there you are. You're a mod now. I'll put caffeine. I'll do a lot more of this later. But yeah, we'll get back to whatever in. Hi Chrissy, do you want to be a moderator? I'll put Joey in. Joey's a regular of mine. Here we go. Sorry, this is the first time I've set anything up like this, so... Right, there you go. So I've got a few moderators on there, because to be frank, yesterday, the very different groups I were on yesterday, it was silly season for trolls. Honestly, it were... I hope you're enjoying this anyway, guys. What I will do before I go any farther with the sky is get a slightly darker and get these edges. It gives it that little bit of... Get some wet water, nice water, and then feather. And then make sure that that's feathered out. And the trick of doing clouds is not to make them look as though they're just linear. They travel across the sky sometimes in a direction that isn't just on the horizon. They travel all sorts of different directions, clouds. So that's one way to make them look a lot more realistic. So I'm hoping that this now is as dry as I need it. So this again, it's a blue bridge, but I'm going to be fairly direct with this. I'm not going to be messing about too much. Under here it's going to be fairly dark anyway, so I'm going to get some values in, and then it goes something like that. And you really don't need to go into the pure architecture or all this. It's just giving an impression of what's there. And I am painting in a very loose style as well, so it's not... I'm not going for absolute detail. Tends to be my way of doing things at the moment. So at the top of that I've got a couple of like little pinnacles. Obviously that's where they put the tension of the things like that. Now where it gets interesting, I hope you can see that. Let's just have a look. Oh, it's going to be a waste of time. Yeah, you can. So that's a bit light at the moment, but I'm going to get a dark blue and I'm going to get a purpley red. And under here, where the shadow will be, I'm going to leave... it's not exactly bright. Oh. And at this side you get a few bits of detail in there. You really don't need to be over detailing stuff. And most of this is quite dry for watercolouring. But I want a fairly controlled environment while I'm doing this. The drier the paint is, the more controlled it is. So I'm going to let that dry. Now I'm going to go into these areas here where the background skyscape is. Now that's all sorts of different colours. So I'm gonna make a mixer like a brick kind of browny red colour. And again, it's like you don't really need to do much detail. And then probably a bit of blue for one of them. And then some buildings are sandstone, so that's... And I'm quite happy for these to just blend in together because they are in the background. They're just a blur in the background, although you can basically tell what they are. So directly after that we've got some foliage. Now this might need a couple of coats. But we'll get back to that later. So let's start thinking about doing this light building. Sorry everybody. I'm not right sure which bridge it is, Joey, but I think it's one of... It looks to me like in New York. I mean, if I said the Brooklyn Bridge, I might be wrong. But it's one of the bridges that goes over the river from New York to Brooklyn, I would imagine. So, and there are several bridges that look like that. So, but I'm not an expert on New York, so right, this side, it's got that... It has actually got that classic colour for a building in New York, that almost terracotta orange kind of colour. So I'm gonna get an orange, mix it in with a little bit of that. Want to get it a bit lighter than that. See if I can get some yellow in it, because I don't want it too dark. Because right, both of these buildings will be the same colour, but the one's in shade, obviously. So I'm gonna nice and wet. I'm gonna get in with this one. I'm gonna put a bit of yellow, and get me trusty get that off. Here we go. Bit of texture. And at this side, same thing. Although it's a bit smaller, that. I'm going to move that out of the way a little bit. And now at this side, because it's in shade, add a bit of blue. Notice I'm not being I'm not being overly detailed at all. Get some interesting line work in here. The only dark part of this will be up here on this edge of the building, as it casts a little bit of a shadow into. See if we can tease some of that blue out. And we're not that far off done with the buildings, because I'm not going to be, all I'm doing is a bit of cross hatching like that, and that will represent the windows. And always remember that you've got to do that in perspective. And do exactly the same at this side, but obviously because this is darker, you've got to make a darker mix of colour. So hope I'm not boring you to death. So down, 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 down. Like that. In these more closer areas, you might want to put some detail. And that's one of the reasons why I've left that thing there. So this building here will project some of its shadow. So what I'm gonna do there is negative paint around this car. Just that will be. And again, that will need negative painting as well. All of that will be fairly dark because of this building. But as you get up to about here, it loses its strength. So what I'll do quickly, make sure that's wet. And there will be a little bit of shade in there. Now, it won't be New York without a particular kind of vehicle in it. So, guess what this is? Yeah, New York's famous for its yellow taxis, isn't it? And that's what hopefully this is going to end up being. We've got a slight leakage. So if you get things like that, it's easily dealt with as long as you deal with it fairly quickly. Bump, gone away. Who says you can't deal with watercolours? So at the moment, I'm going to leave that at that because it's obviously at a point where we need to leave it for a bit. So there are some other vehicles, but I'm not really going to be going into massive detail. I just want to give you an idea that they're a vehicle. Is that there? Behind it there might be another vehicle, but all I'm doing is just basic shapes. Right. Again, this side do a red car. These are not the colours of the original image. I'm just, you know, do a yellow car behind it. It's just representational. It's not something that is exact. If you can flow bits of things, well, great, because it's nice to see flowing activity in a car, in watercolour painting. Just the one area that you need to deal with here is, although I'm going to make a big zero of that. Yeah, I thought I would do. Leave that for a bit, and that's leaked out without me noticing. It's okay that, because that's going to get made into a what I'm going to do is do some more detail in here. Right. And one of the things about it is try and be rapid about it. Don't faff around and then you'll be able to do a much more looser painting than what you thought you could do. I'll add a bit more. Right. Sometimes with watercolour painting, because it's so heavily saturated with water, you have to leave it for a certain amount of time. But oh, it's nice that you're all chatting. Hi, mate. For those of you who are not familiar with Friends in the Box, that's you guys who are in the chat. That's something that Dee Willingham uses a lot. So I'm just getting, again, even though it's something that I want of interest, I'm just giving you the impression of it. And as this is just like a basic lesson, I'm not going to be doing tons of detail. I won't be taking it much farther than this, to be honest with you, because I think it's gone on pretty much long enough. I'll tidy certain areas up, but obviously you can go a lot more complicated than this. It's just I'm waiting for certain parts of the artwork to dry. I wouldn't normally do this, but I'm just trying to speed the process up a bit. Right, we'll just really get into the... I mean, if I were doing a much more considered painting, I'd be going over this and doing a lot more tonal value work. But not today, because this is just... I just wanted to really get up and do some... It's really nice to do some live work, because I've not been able to do it previously. So the only cables that I can actually see on that, and I'm being very careful here, are those. Plobbed it up already. Right, so it's mostly tonal value work now. Just making sure that, but it's at the moment it's too wet for me to be doing anything else with it. So I'm slightly worried that it's all going to just turn into a mush. But because I'm live, I would normally let it all dry out, but I can get a few more direct bits there, and that. Right, so just for a really short painting and a first layer of paint, that would be reasonably good. What I would do once it's all totally dry is spot out areas of tonal value where it's darker and give it much more sense of dimension, and put detailing in certain areas. But I hope that this has been nice for you to watch and have a look at, and thank you for coming in, everybody. I really do appreciate the fact that you've spent time watching me put paint on paper, and hopefully maybe later I'll finish it off once it's dry. I might even go live with it. So again, thank you for coming in, and I'll end the live at this point if I can do it.